My daughter-in-law saw me in front of the mirror trying on a new lipstick. She smirked and said, "Don't bother, Eleanor. At your age, makeup doesn't work miracles anymore." I didn't answer. I just put the mirror away, grabbed my purse, and left. The next day, when she saw who had come to pick me up, the color drained from her face. But to understand how I got to that moment, I need to take you back 3 years. To the day I buried Robert, my husband. The day everything started to fall apart. My name is Eleanor. I'm 67 years old, and for 42 years I lived in the same house in a quiet Chicago suburb. A house with a small garden with colorful tiles in the kitchen, with the smell of the strong coffee Robert brewed every morning. A house full of memories, laughter, life. When Robert died, I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. My 2 sons came to the funeral. Matthew, the oldest, arrived with Julia, his wife. Ryan, the youngest, came alone from Wisconsin, where he worked as an engineer. Matthew barely hugged me. Julia wore dark sunglasses and a tight black dress that seemed more fitting for a movie premiere than a wake. 3 weeks after the funeral, Matthew showed up at my door. "Mom, we need to talk," he said. Julia was behind him with a smile that I thought at the time was sympathetic. "We're worried about you. This house is too big for you to be alone. What if something happens? What if you fall?" I was still numb with grief. I was still sleeping on the wrong side of the bed. I still set out 2 coffee cups every morning out of habit. "Let us stay in the upstairs apartment for a while," Matthew suggested. "Just until we save up for our own place. That way we can look after you, Mom. You won't be alone." Those words were my undoing. You won't be alone. I agreed. My God. I agreed without thinking. The first week was tolerable. Julia went up and down the stairs with boxes. Matthew set up the internet in their apartment. I kept to my routine, making my breakfast, watering my plants, watching my shows. But in the second week, Julia started coming downstairs more often. "Oh, Eleanor, are you still using these old pots?" she'd say, touching my enamelware. "Eleanor, aren't you embarrassed by these faded curtains?" Every comment was like a tiny needle. It didn't hurt right away, but they added up. One day I came home from the store to find she had rearranged my living room furniture. "They were just so outdated, Eleanor. I wanted to give it a more modern touch," she explained with that smile of hers. I didn't say anything. I swallowed my annoyance. I thought, she's just trying to help. But when she threw out my collection of ceramic mugs that Robert had given me over the years, something inside me started to break too. "Oh, I'm sorry, Eleanor. They were just so chipped I already bought you some new prettier ones." The new ones were clear glass cold with no history. That night I cried silently, hugging the one mug I had saved from the trash. But the worst was yet to come. The following months were like watching sand being washed away by the tide. Little by little, without me being able to stop it, Julia stopped asking for permission for anything. She would come down to my kitchen and use my things as if they were hers. She'd open my refrigerator and complain, "Ugh, Eleanor, just old people food. Don't you get bored of eating the same thing?" One Tuesday, I came home from the farmer's market carrying my bags of vegetables. Julia was in the living room painting her nails on my sofa. "Eleanor, you still go to the market. There are apps that deliver everything to your house. You're too old to be carrying bags around." I gripped the handles of the bags until my fingers hurt. "I like picking out my own tomatoes," I replied as calmly as I could. She laughed. "Oh, how sweet. Women from your generation and your little habits." Women from her generation. As if I were a museum relic. Matthew was almost never home. He left early, came back late. When I mentioned anything about Julia, he would just say, "Mom, she's trying to help you." Don't be so hard on her. Me hard on her. I could barely get a word out without my voice breaking. One day I was tidying up my room when I found something strange. Bills. Bills in my name that I hadn't authorized. Credit cards I didn't remember applying for. Purchases from department stores for amounts that made my blood run cold. $47,000 in a single transaction, another for $89,000, one more for $123,000. My hands trembled holding those papers. I went upstairs, my heart pounding in my temples. I knocked on the door to the second floor. Julia opened it with a green face mask on. "Julia, I need to talk to you." "Oh, Eleanor, I'm busy. Can it be later?" "No, it's now." My voice sounded firmer than I expected. She sighed dramatically and let me in. I showed her the bills. "What is this?" "There are purchases in my name for over $200,000. For a second, just 1 second, I saw something in her eyes. Something cold, calculated. But it disappeared so quickly, I thought I had imagined it. "Oh, Eleanor, don't you remember? You gave me permission. You told me to use your card because mine was blocked. Did you forget?" "I never. Eleanor." She interrupted me in a soft, almost motherly voice. "Sit down. Did you take your medicine today? Sometimes when you don't take your pills, you forget things." I wasn't taking any medicine. I was perfectly lucid, but the way she said it with that fake concern made me doubt myself for a horrible instant. "I'm going to talk to Matthew," I said finally. "Of course, Eleanor. Talk to him." That night, I waited for my son. When he arrived after 10, I showed him the bills. Matthew looked them over, tired, with deep, dark circles under his eyes. He called Julia. She came downstairs wrapped in a silk robe, her eyes red, as if she had been crying. "Honey, my mom says she didn't authorize these purchases." Julia let out a sob, a perfect, Oscar-worthy sob. "I was only trying to help her, Matthew. She told me she needed things for the house, that she felt bad asking her children for money. I just wanted to help." Another tear rolled down her cheek. "If I did something wrong, forgive me, Eleanor. I just didn't want you to feel bad for asking." Matthew looked at me, and in his gaze, I saw that he believed her, not me. His wife, not his mother. "Mom," he said softly, as if I were a little girl, "maybe you just forgot. You've been under a lot of stress since Dad." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. "Julie just wants to help. Please be more understanding with her." I stood there in my own living room holding those bills, feeling my own son choose his wife's lie over his mother's truth. I couldn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, listening to their footsteps on the floor above, feeling how my house was ceasing to be mine. And then I heard something that froze my blood. Julia was on the phone. Her voice carried through the ceiling. I didn't understand everything, but I caught a few stray words. "Soon. Right time. She doesn't suspect a thing." I got out of bed, my heart racing. I tiptoed upstairs until I was under her window. "Mom says we have to speed things up." "No, he doesn't say anything. He does what I want." "Yes, the house will be in our name. I have everything ready." I felt the floor open up beneath me, but I still had no idea how far her plan went. The next few days were a silent nightmare. Every time I saw Julia, I remembered those words. "The house will be in our name." How? What was she talking about? This house was mine. Robert and I paid for it over 20 years. Every brick, every window, every corner held our sweat. I tried to act normal, but she noticed everything. She'd look at me with those narrowed eyes as if sizing me up. "Eleanor, are you feeling okay? You seem nervous." "I'm fine." I lied. I started looking for my important documents. The deed to the house, my will, Robert's life insurance papers. I kept them in a wooden box in my closet. When I went to check, my heart stopped. Documents were missing. The deed was there, yes, but there were copies I didn't remember making. And there were new papers with letterheads from law firms I had never visited. With trembling hands, I picked up my phone and called Ryan, my younger son, the one who had always been more observant, quieter. "Mom, what's wrong? You sound strange." I couldn't hold it in. I cried. I cried like I hadn't cried since Robert's funeral. I told him everything. The bills, the comments, the conversation. I had overheard the documents. "I'm on my way," he said without hesitation. "I'll be there this weekend." When Ryan arrived on Saturday, Julia put on her best face. She made him coffee, smiled at him, asked about his job in Wisconsin. "Brother-in-law, so good to see you. Your mom keeps you all to herself. You barely tell us anything about you." Ryan just nodded, polite but distant. He had always been like that. He observed more than he spoke. That afternoon, while Julia was out at the supermarket and Matthew was at work, Ryan and I sat in the kitchen. I showed him the bills, the documents, everything. My son reviewed each paper with a seriousness that reminded me of his father. Robert also had that way of frowning when something didn't add up. "Mom, this is wrong. Very wrong," he said finally. "These copies of the deed, someone is using them for something. And these bills, this is fraud." "But Matthew tells me I'm forgetting things that I gave permission." "You're not forgetting anything," Ryan cut in firmly. "I know you. I know when something is affecting you. And I see how she looks at you, Mom, like she's waiting for you to disappear." His words sent a chill down my spine because that was exactly how I felt. On Sunday during lunch, Ryan tried to talk to Matthew. Julia was sitting next to my older son with her hand on his as if marking her territory. "Brother, we need to talk about Mom." "What's wrong with Mom?" Matthew asked without looking up from his plate. "I think someone is taking advantage of her." Julia let out a light laugh. "Oh, Ryan, don't start with conspiracy theories. Your mom is perfectly well taken care of here with us." "I'm not talking to you," Ryan replied with a coldness that surprised me. The atmosphere tensed. Matthew finally looked up. "What are you implying?" "That there are fraudulent bills in Mom's name. That there are documents being moved that she didn't authorize. That something is not right." Julia clenched the napkin in her lap. I saw her jaw tighten. "Matthew, are you going to let your brother accuse me like this?" And there she was again, the perfect victim, the teary eyes, the broken voice. Matthew stood up. "Ryan, if you're going to come to my house and disrespect my wife—" "This isn't your house," Ryan interrupted. "It's our mother's house." The silence that followed was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Matthew left the table. Julia followed him, but not before shooting me a look I will never forget. Pure, concentrated venom. Ryan had to go back to Wisconsin that night for work. But before he left, he hugged me tightly. "You're not alone, Mom. I promise. I'm going to find out what's happening." When he left, the house felt emptier than ever. The following days, Julia intensified her strategy. Now the goal was clear. Isolate me. I had my group of friends. We met every month to embroider and have tea. They were women my age, lifelong friends. Susan, Linda, Sarah. We had raised our children together. We had buried our husbands together. One Thursday, as I was getting ready to leave for our meeting, Julia came down the stairs. "Where are you going, Eleanor?" "To Susan's house. It's our embroidery meeting." She made a face. "Oh, Eleanor, with those ladies again. I always see you so tired after those meetings. They're all getting pretty old, don't you think? All that talk of aches and pains, it's depressing." "My friends don't depress me." "I'm not saying it's your fault, Eleanor, but at your age, fatigue is dangerous. What if you get dizzy on the way? What if something happens to you?" Every word was an invisible chain. "I'm fine, Julia. I know, but Matthew worries so much. Why don't you just stay here? I'll keep you company. We can watch a movie." I looked at my purse, my sweater, the keys in my hand. And for the first time in my life, I felt scared. Scared to leave my own house. Scared of what might happen if I disobeyed her. I picked up the phone and called Susan. "Sue, I can't make it today. I'm feeling a little tired." My friend's worried voice on the other end broke my heart. "Eleanor, are you okay? You haven't come for 2 months." 2 months. Had it been that long since I had stopped living? "I'm fine. I just need to rest." When I hung up, Julia was smiling. "Good decision, Eleanor. You'll see you'll feel better here resting peacefully." I sat on the sofa in my own living room, feeling the walls closing in on me. And the worst part was that no one, absolutely no one, seemed to see what was happening. But the universe was preparing something that neither of us expected. 3 weeks later, Julia came into my room with a smile that should have alerted me. But I was so tired, so defeated, that I could no longer recognize the danger signs. "Eleanor, I have a surprise for you." I looked up from the book I was pretending to read. In reality, I had been staring at the same page for 20 minutes without processing a single word. "What surprise?" "We're going to throw you a birthday party." My birthday was in 4 days. 68 years old. Ever since Robert died, I hadn't celebrated. I didn't feel like it. Birthdays are meant to be celebrated with the person who knows every one of your years, and that person was gone. I don't want a party, Julia. Oh, Eleanor, don't be a party pooper. You'll see you're going to love it. I'll invite the neighbors' family friends. It will be beautiful. Something in her tone unsettled me, but I didn't have the strength to fight. The day of my birthday arrived with a bright sun that contrasted with the darkness I felt inside. Julia had been decorating the house since early morning. Pink and gold balloons everywhere, a table with snacks, music in the background. See, Eleanor? Everything's perfect for you. The guests started arriving after 4 in the afternoon. Neighbors who barely spoke to me anymore. Some of Matthew's distant cousins, Julia's sister with her husband, and to my surprise, Susan, Linda, and Sarah also came. Eleanor, so good to see you. Susan hugged me tightly. We haven't heard from you in so long. We thought you were upset with us. I could never be upset with you, I whispered. Julia suddenly appeared between us. My mother-in-law's friends. Come in, come in. There's food and drinks for everyone. The party was going normally until it was time for the cake. Julia had everyone gather in the living room. They turned off the lights. They sang Happy Birthday, off-key and cheerful. Well, before we cut the cake, Julia announced with a glass in her hand, I want to say a few words about my dear mother-in-law. My stomach clenched. Eleanor is an incredible woman, a woman from another era. Light laughter from the audience. And since she's from another era, well, she has her little quirks, right? More laughter. Awkward now. For example, look what I got her for a present. She pulled a knitted beige sweater out of a bag, the kind only old ladies in nursing homes wear. A granny sweater, because at her age, poor thing, she doesn't even know what to wear anymore. I look at her and I think, oh, Eleanor, that blouse from 1985 again. Some people laughed. Others looked at the floor. I sat frozen in my chair, feeling each word like a public slap. But the worst was yet to come. And since we're all friends here, Julia continued now, with her phone in her hand, let me show you some pictures of my mother-in-law's youth so you can see she had her glory days too. The television screen lit up, and there for everyone to see was a picture of me in a swimsuit. I was 28 years old. We were in Florida, Robert and I, on our first vacation after Matthew was born. I looked happy young, a little chubby after the pregnancy. Look at that! The mother-in-law in a bikini! Julia announced with a laugh. Well, back then they wore those swimsuits that covered everything up right. More pictures. Me at my wedding in a dress that I thought was the most beautiful in the world and that now on that giant screen looked outdated. Me pregnant with a huge belly. Me with my hair up in a style that was elegant in the 80s but now seemed ridiculous. Each photo came with a comment from Julia. Each comment generated nervous laughter. I looked at Matthew. He was in a corner drinking a beer, saying nothing, not defending me. His silence hurt more than all his wife's words combined. Oh, Eleanor, don't look like that, Julia said when she saw my face. It's just for fun. You know we love you. Susan stood up. This isn't right, Eleanor. But I couldn't take it anymore. I got up from my chair. I walked through the living room past the guests who avoided my gaze, and I went up the stairs to my room, closed the door, and fell onto the bed. The tears came, then hot, bitter, humiliating. I had been ridiculed in my own home in front of my people, my neighbors, my friends, and my son hadn't said a single word. I heard a soft knock on the door. Mom. It was Matthew. I didn't answer. Mom, open up. Julie didn't mean to make you feel bad. It was just a joke. A joke. My public humiliation was a joke. Go away, Matthew. Mom. Go away. He left. I heard him go down the stairs. The party continued below as if nothing had happened. Music, laughter, conversations. I stayed there on my bed looking at the framed photos on my nightstand. Robert and I on our anniversary. My sons as children, a family that no longer existed. Someone else knocked on the door. This time it was Ryan's voice. Mom, it's me. Please open up. I didn't know Ryan had come to the party. I opened the door. My younger son came in, his face red with contained fury. I just got here. I saw everything. I saw what that woman did. He sat next to me and hugged me. This is over, Mom. I swear to you this ends here. I can't do anything, Ryan. Matthew defends her. This is my house, but I feel like an intruder. Well, you're going to stop feeling like that, he said with a determination I didn't know he had. Because tomorrow, we start fighting back. I didn't quite believe him. How were we going to fight against what against my own son? But Ryan was right about one thing. This couldn't go on. That night, when everyone had left and the house was quiet, I found the beige sweater Julia had given me on my bed. I held it in my hands. It smelled new of a department store of mockery. And then for the first time in months, I felt something other than sadness. I felt rage. And rage, I would soon discover, was much more useful than tears. Rage kept me awake all night. I tossed and turned, replaying every moment of the humiliation, every laugh, every pitying look from my neighbors, every second of Matthew's cowardly silence. By 6 a.m, I was up. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. I needed to know how far all of this went. I went down to the kitchen. The house was a disaster after the party. Dirty dishes, glasses everywhere, napkins on the floor. Of course, Julia had left everything for me to clean up, as always. But this time I wasn't going to clean. This time I was going to search. I remembered that Matthew had a small study on the ground floor next to the garage. Robert used to use it for his work things. Matthew had turned it into his personal office when they moved in, an office he kept locked. I went to my room and looked in my jewelry box. There it was, the master key that Robert had made years ago when we were constantly losing keys. That key opened every door in the house. With my heart pounding in my ears, I went down to the study. The key turned with a soft click. The door opened. Robert's desk now had a new computer, papers organized in folders, a forgotten coffee cup from days ago. I started looking. The first folder seemed normal. Utility bills, Matthew's bank statements. But the second folder had my name on it. With trembling hands, I opened it. And there it was. The whole plan, every monstrous detail. Legal documents, draft lawsuits, a contract with a law firm downtown. And on the first page, written in clear, definitive letters, process for declaration of mental incapacity due to advanced senility. The air left my lungs. I kept reading. There was a step-by-step plan. Phase 1, document episodes of forgetfulness and erratic behavior. Completed. Phase 2, isolate from social circle to avoid conflicting testimonies. In progress. Phase 3, psychiatric evaluation with Dr. Velasco. Personal contact. Pending. Phase 4, judicial request for legal guardianship. Pending. There were more pages, photographs. Pictures of me taken out of context. One where I was in my pajamas in the middle of the afternoon because I had felt sick. Another where I had a confused look on my face because I had lost my glasses. Another where I was talking to myself in the garden. In reality, I was talking to my cat, but the cat wasn't in the picture. Each image had a date and a description. Subject wanders in pajamas at inappropriate hours. Subject shows spatial disorientation. Subject exhibits episodes of speaking without an interlocutor present. Subject. They called me subject, as if I were an experiment, as if I weren't a person, as if I weren't the mother of one of them. But the worst part was on the last page, a preliminary notarized document, a draft of a deed, where my house would be transferred to the names of Matthew Castro and Julia Montero as soon as my incapacity was declared, for the purpose of safeguarding the family assets in light of the proven incapacity of the current owner. I felt like I was choking. The walls of the study were closing in on me. There was also a financial analysis. They had calculated everything. The value of the house, $875,000 according to their estimate. My savings, $34,000 in the bank. The life insurance from Robert that I had collected and hadn't touched, $52,000. Everything added up, labeled valued. I wasn't their mother. I was an obstacle, a formality, a problem to be solved. And there was more. A printed WhatsApp conversation between Julia and someone named Mama Rose. Julia, it's almost all set, Mom. The lawyer says we can have the guardianship in 3 months. Mama Rose. And the other son, the one from Wisconsin. Julia. Ryan doesn't matter. Matthew is the oldest and has de facto custody. The lawyer says that's enough. Mama Rose. And what if she resists? Julia. At her age, with the proof we have, she doesn't stand a chance. Besides, who's going to believe her? We've already isolated her from her friends. She has no one. Mama Rose. Well done, sweetie. Once you have the house, you can do whatever you want with her. Put her in a home and forget about her. Julia. Or even sell it and move to the Gold Coast. That's always been my goal. The tears fell on the paper, blurring the words, but I had already read them. I couldn't erase them from my mind now. A nursing home. They wanted to put me in a nursing home. They wanted to take my house, my dignity, my freedom, and leave me to rot in a small room while they sold the memories of my life. I took pictures of everything with my cell phone. My hands were shaking so much that several came out blurry, but I managed to capture the essentials. I put everything back exactly as it was and left the study. I locked the door, went up to my room, sat on the edge of my bed and looked at the pictures on the wall. Matthew as a child, smiling with his front tooth chipped from a bike fall. Matthew at his graduation, hugging me, telling me, "Thank you, Mom, for everything." Matthew at his wedding, kissing my cheek, whispering, "You'll always be my priority." At what point had I lost my son, or had I never really had him? The pain was so deep I couldn't even cry. It was a black, enormous, unbearable void. I called Ryan. He answered on the second ring. "Mom, what happened?" I couldn't speak, just choked sobs. "I'm on my way. I'm leaving right now. Hold on, Mom. I'm on my way." I ended the call and stayed there, hugging a pillow, feeling my whole world crumble. I had raised that boy. I had given him everything. I had stayed up with him when he had a fever. I had worked double shifts to pay for his college. I had cried with pride the day he got his first job. And now that same boy was planning to steal everything from me, declare me crazy, lock me up, erase me. The door to my room opened. It was Julia. She was wearing a pink satin robe and carrying a steaming cup of coffee. "Good morning, Eleanor. Are you over your tantrum from last night?" I looked at her, and for the first time I saw her true face. No masks, no fake smiles, just pure, cold, calculating ambition. "Get out of my room," I said in a voice I didn't recognize as my own. She laughed. "Oh, Eleanor, so dramatic. You'd better come down for breakfast before everything gets cold." I said get out. Something in my tone made her stop. She looked at me with those narrowed eyes, evaluating me. "Whatever," she finally said, and left. When she closed the door, I took out my phone and looked at the pictures I had taken of the documents again. The pain was still there, deep, heart-wrenching. But now there was something else. There was evidence. And although I felt destroyed, although I felt I had lost my son forever, there was a small spark inside me that refused to go out. The spark of a woman who was not yet ready to give up. Ryan arrived 3 hours later. I heard him burst through the front door. Julia tried to stop him. "Oh, brother-in-law, what a surprise. We didn't know." "Where's my mother?" "In her room, but she's a little upset. I think she needs to rest." Ryan walked past her as if she were invisible. He took the stairs 2 at a time. He knocked on my door. "Mom, it's me." I opened it. My son hugged me tight, and there in his arms I cried again. But this time, they weren't tears of defeat. They were tears of contained rage. "Tell me everything," he said, closing the door. I showed him the pictures. I watched his face go from concern to disbelief, and then to a fury I had rarely seen in him. This is criminal, Mom. This is fraud. It's abuse. He couldn't find the words. "It's your brother," I finished for him. "It's Matthew. Matthew is being manipulated by that snake. But yes, he's an accomplice, and he's going to answer for this." Ryan took a deep breath. "We need legal help. Someone good. Someone who—" Just then my phone rang. An unknown number. I answered cautiously. "Hello? Eleanor Aguirre." The voice was masculine, deep with a warm tone that sounded vaguely familiar. "Yes, this is she. Who's calling?" "It's Damien Solorzano. I don't know if you remember me. We were in college together. It was, God, 45 years ago. The name hit me like a wave of memories. Damien, the quiet boy with intelligent eyes who sat 2 rows behind me in literature class, the one who had asked me out 3 times, and all 3 times I had said no because I was already dating Robert. Damien, of course I remember. How did you get my number? I saw something on Facebook. Susan Medina shared a concerning post about a party. Anyway, I got curious, did a little digging, and, well, I have my contacts. He paused. Eleanor, I know this is going to sound strange, but are you okay? Because what I read worried me. Susan, my dear friend Susan, had posted something about the party. About my humiliation. No, Damien, I'm not okay. Can we meet? Get a coffee? If you want, of course. I don't want to impose. I looked at Ryan, who was watching me curiously. I signaled for him to wait. What do you do now, Damien? I'm a lawyer, specializing in family and inheritance law. I have my own firm downtown. The universe, I thought. It has strange ways of sending you help just when you need it most. You do? Yes, I want to see you. Can you come to my house? It's just, I need help urgently. Give me the address. I'm leaving right now. When I hung up, Ryan was looking at me with raised eyebrows. Who was that? An old friend, a lawyer. An old friend who shows up right now. Your father used to say he didn't believe in coincidences. I smiled for the first time in days. He said the universe conspires when you're on the right path. Damien arrived an hour later. When I opened the door, I barely recognized him. The skinny 22-year-old was now a man of almost 70, with silver hair, elegant glasses, and a suit that spoke of professional success. But the eyes were the same. Intelligent kind. Eleanor, he said with a soft smile, the years have been good to you. You're lying, I replied, but thank you for trying. We sat in the living room. Julia came downstairs immediately, like a vulture smelling prey. Oh, Eleanor, who's your visitor? A friend, and this is Private Julia. She frowned, but went back upstairs, not without giving Damien a suspicious look. I told him everything from the beginning. From Robert's death to the documents this morning. Ryan filled in details. Damien listened in silence, taking notes in a leather notebook. When we finished, he took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Eleanor, this is serious. Very serious. But it's also solid. With the evidence you have, we can stop them. How? This house is in your name, correct. Yes, the deed is in my name. Robert and I paid for it together. But when he died, everything was left in my name. Then you have all the power. They can't do anything without a court order. And to get that order, they would need to prove your incapacity to a judge. With the evidence we have of their fraud, no judge would grant them that guardianship. But the debts, the cards in my name, pure fraud. We'll prove it. Every purchase, every transaction. If you didn't sign it, you didn't authorize it. It's not your debt. Damien leaned forward. But I need you to trust me. We're going to document everything, every conversation, every move they make. And when we have enough, we hit them with everything. And Matthew... My voice broke when I said his name. Damien looked at me with compassion. Eleanor Matthew is an accomplice. Maybe he's being manipulated, but he's choosing his wife over his mother. And that choice has legal consequences. Ryan stepped in. I want to help with everything. Whatever you need, Damien. Good. We need to record conversations. Eleanor, can you act? Can you pretend that everything is the same? I thought of all the times I had pretended to be fine when I wasn't. When Robert died and I had to keep going. When my whole body ached, but I kept cooking, cleaning, smiling. I can act, I said. Good. In fact, if you can fake a little bit of dementia, let Julia get confident. Let her speak freely, thinking you're lost. The idea turned my stomach, to pretend to be exactly what they wanted me to be. But I understood the strategy. I'll do it. Damien took a small recorder out of his briefcase. This is legal. You're recording conversations in your own home. Everything we capture is admissible in court. He showed me how to use it. It was tiny, the size of a USB stick. And one more thing, Eleanor. Damien looked me straight in the eye. Why did you never marry me when I asked? The question took me by surprise. Ryan coughed uncomfortably. Damien, relax. It's been 45 years, but I was always curious. Because I was in love with Robert, I answered honestly. And even though you were wonderful, my heart already belonged to someone else. He nodded with a sad smile. I figured. Robert was a good man. I heard when he passed. I was very sorry. Thank you. But I'm here now, and this time Eleanor let me help you. Let me be your ally. There was something in his eyes, something beyond friendship or professional help. After all these years, Damien was still looking at me the way he did when he was 22, with admiration, with affection. And I, a widow betrayed, robbed, humiliated, felt for the first time in months that I wasn't completely alone. Thank you, Damien, really. When he left, Ryan looked at me with a mischievous smile. That man is still in love with you. Don't be silly. Mom, I'm a man. I know that look. He got serious. And I'm glad. You need people who truly love you, not opportunists who only want your house. That night, when the house fell silent, I hid the recorder in the pocket of my robe. Tomorrow, the performance of a lifetime would begin. And Julia, so confident in her victory, would have no idea that the hunter had just become the prey. For the next few days, I became someone I didn't recognize, an actress, a spy in my own home. I started slowly. Little memory lapses that Julia would notice. I'd leave my keys in strange places. I'd ask the same question twice. I'd put on a blouse and then say, "Did I have breakfast yet?" when I clearly had. Julia took the bait completely. "Oh, Eleanor, forgetting things again. Did you take your vitamins?" she'd say with that fake concern that no longer fooled me. What vitamins, dear? I called her dear now. Every letter of that word cost me, but it worked. She would smile. "The ones I gave you this morning, Eleanor. Don't you remember?" "Oh, right, I think so." I'd pause, looking confused. Or was that yesterday, building her case, without knowing I was documenting her? One afternoon while I was faking a nap on the sofa, I heard her talking on the phone in the dining room. The recorder was in my sweater pocket. "Mom, I swear she's getting worse every day. Yes, this morning she put on the same blouse twice and didn't even notice. The lawyer says we almost have enough. 3 more weeks a month at most, and we can file the lawsuit. The psychiatric evaluation. We already have an appointment with Dr. Velasco for the 28th. He already knows what he has to put in his report." My blood boiled. A bought and paid for psychiatrist, but I stayed still, breathing slowly, as if asleep. "Ryan, he doesn't matter. Matthew already talked to a lawyer who said that as the younger brother, he doesn't have the same rights. Besides, what's he going to do from Wisconsin? By the time he finds out, everything will be signed." She went on about her plans. Selling the house, buying a condo on the Gold Coast, going on a European vacation with my life insurance money. When she hung up, I waited 5 more minutes. Then I woke up with a start. "Oh, did I fall asleep? What time is it?" Julia appeared with her snake-like smile. 4 o'clock. "Eleanor, did you sleep well? Have I eaten yet?" "Yes, you ate 2 hours ago. Don't you remember?" "Oh dear, I'm just having trouble remembering things lately." "Don't worry, Eleanor. That's what I'm here for, to take care of you." Every word was poison, coated in honey. That night, I sent the recording to Damien and Ryan. Damien replied immediately. "Perfect. This is pure gold. Keep it up. We need more." And I got more. A few days later, Julia invited her family over to see the house. She didn't tell me. They just showed up. Her mother, Rose, a woman in her 60s with too much makeup and bleached blonde hair. Her sister, Dahlia, and her brother-in-law, a heavy-set guy who sweated even if he was at the North Pole. I was in my room when I heard them arrive. I came down the stairs slowly, the recorder hidden in my skirt pocket. "Oh, sweetie." Rose hugged me with false familiarity. "So nice to finally meet you. Julie talks about you so much." "The pleasure is all mine." I lied. "Look, Mom, Dahlia, this is the dining room." Julia gave the tour as if she owned the place. "We're going to put a new table here. This one is too old." It's the table where we raised our children, I said softly. Julia ignored me. And we're going to completely remodel the living room, change the furniture, paint the walls, put in a new rug. Her mother nodded excitedly. Oh, honey, your house is going to be so beautiful. Mom, please, Julia whispered, giving me a side eye. But then she smiled. Well, Eleanor understands, right? At her age, these things don't matter so much anymore. I bit my tongue. Act, Eleanor, act. Yes, dear, whatever you say. They went up to the second floor. I followed them slowly, like a tired old woman. Let them think I was harmless, weak, controllable. On the second floor, Julia opened the door to the room that had been Matthew's as a child. Now it was their master bedroom. This is where we sleep. When Eleanor leaves, this will be the main bedroom. Am I going to leave? I asked with a trembling voice. Rose patted my shoulder. Oh, Eleanor, Julie was just telling me that maybe you'd be more comfortable somewhere where they can take better care of you. You know, with nurses' activities for people your age. A nursing home. They were talking about putting me in a nursing home in my own house. Maybe so, I said submissively. Maybe that's for the best. Dahlia, the sister, chimed in. The good thing is that when you sell this house, you'll get good money. How much did you say it was worth, Julie? Like $900,000 and $850, according to the estimate. But yeah, it's a good investment. They were talking about my house, as if I were already dead. But I stayed there silent, recording everything. When they left, I went up to my room and cried. Not from sadness, from contained fury, from momentary helplessness, but also from something else, from determination. I sent the audio to Damien. His reply made me smile for the first time in days. We've got them. We're almost ready. That same week, something unexpected happened. I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard voices from the second floor, an argument. Matthew and Julia. I don't know if we're doing the right thing, Matthew was saying. You're telling me this now after everything we've planned. She's my mother, Julia. I can't just... Your mother is old. She can't take care of herself anymore. We're doing her a favor. A favor? Or do we just want her house? There was a silence. Then Julia's voice cold as ice. Matthew, we decided this together. Your mother has a huge house she doesn't use. We need to build our own assets. What's wrong with that? But declaring her incompetent when she's not... And what do you suggest? Wait for her to die. She could live another 20 years. 20 years living as freeloaders, 20 years with nothing of our own. But it's fraud, Julie. It's strategy. Besides, you already signed the papers with the lawyer. You already gave your statement. You're in this, my love. There's no turning back. I didn't hear any more. I went up to my room silently. My son had doubts, small, late ones, but he had them. That night I called Damien. Is it time? I asked. Almost. I need one more thing. We need evidence of the lover. What lover? Eleanor, please. No one does all this just for a house. She has plans, and I'm sure they include someone other than your son. He was right. The next day I made it my mission to watch her. Julia went to the gym every afternoon, always dressed up, always perfumed. And she always came back 3 hours later with her hair intact and without a drop of sweat. I asked Susan for help. My friend, bless her, agreed immediately. Eleanor, count on me. That woman is going to pay for everything she's done to you. Susan followed her in her car. Julia didn't go to any gym. She went to a hotel, the Marlowe Hotel on the Gold Coast. Susan sent me pictures. Julia walking in arm with a man. A guy in his 40s, slicked back hair, expensive suit, a salesman's smile. 3 hours later, they came out. He gave her a kiss on the lips before getting into a BMW SUV. Susan ran the plates. The car was registered to a Salvador Ortiz. A quick Google search revealed what we needed. A businessman wanted in Texas for real estate fraud. A professional con artist. I sent everything to Damien. His response was immediate. Perfect. Now we can move. Are you ready? I looked at my reflection in the mirror. The same woman who had tried on that lipstick weeks ago, but different, with fire in her eyes. I'm ready, I replied. And the next day, Julia saw someone arrive she never expected. It was Tuesday, 10 in the morning. Julia was in the living room watching a series on TV, eating grapes from my fruit bowl with her feet on my coffee table. She heard the doorbell and went to answer it, annoyed. "Who could that be now?" She opened the door, and her face went pale. Damien was standing there in his impeccable suit, his leather briefcase, and a professional smile. "Good morning. I'm looking for Mrs. Eleanor Aguirre." "Who are you?" Julia stammered. "Damien Solorzano, attorney. I'm here to see my client." I came down the stairs at that moment. I had planned my entrance. I was wearing a gray dress that made me look dignified. My hair was up, and I had even put on a little makeup. I wanted to look strong. "Damien, please come in," I said with a firmness that made Julia take a step back. "Client," Julia repeated. "Eleanor, what is this man talking about?" "Sit down, Julia. You need to hear this too." We sat in the living room. Damien opened his briefcase and took out a thick folder. "Mrs. Julia Montero, I am here on behalf of Mrs. Eleanor Aguirre to notify you that we have filed a formal lawsuit for fraud, identity theft, and misappropriation of funds." Julia laughed, a nervous, high-pitched laugh. "What? This is ridiculous. Eleanor, what did this man tell you? Who is he?" "He's my lawyer," I replied calmly. "And he has evidence of everything you've done." "Evidence of what?" Damien placed copies of the fraudulent bills on the table. $847,000 in unauthorized purchases. Credit cards opened in my client's name without her consent. This constitutes financial fraud, Mrs. Montero. She gave me permission. Right, Eleanor? You gave me permission. No, Julia, I never did. My voice didn't tremble. Damien continued. We also have documentation of a plan to declare my client mentally incompetent with the aim of appropriating her property. He put copies of the documents I found in the study on the table. Documents that were prepared without Mrs. Aguirre's knowledge or consent. The color completely drained from Julia's face. Then Damien took out his phone. We have recordings. He played the audio. Julia's voice filled the living room. She's getting worse every day. We almost have enough. 3 more weeks and we can file the lawsuit. Then the audio from her family's visit. When you sell this house, you'll get good money. $850,000. Julia jumped to her feet. That's illegal. You can't record me without my permission. Actually, we can, Damien replied calmly. The recordings were made by the owner of the house on her own property. They are completely admissible in court. Matthew! Julia screamed. Matthew, get down here now! My son came running down the stairs. He was shirtless in sweatpants, looking like he just woke up. What's going on? Who's screaming? Damien stood up and extended his hand. Damien Solorzano, your mother's attorney. Matthew didn't shake his hand. He looked at me. Mom, sit down, son. You need to hear this too. For the first time in months, I used a tone that allowed no argument, the same tone I used when he was a boy and had done something wrong. Matthew sat down. Damien went over everything again, the fraud, the plans, the recordings. Matthew listened, his eyes growing wider and wider. Additionally, Damien continued, pulling out more papers. We have requested an immediate freeze on all fraudulent credit cards. The debts will be transferred to the name of the person who made the purchases, Mrs. Julia Montero. You can't do that, Julia shrieked. Yes, we can, and we did. This morning at 8. Damien handed her an official document. We have also filed for a temporary eviction order while the case is under investigation. Eviction. Matthew found his voice. Mom, are you kicking us out of the house? I looked at him. My son, my firstborn, the boy I had held in my arms, whom I had comforted during his nightmares, whom I had applauded at every achievement. Matthew, you were planning to declare me insane to steal my house. It wasn't? Yes, it was, I interrupted. I found the documents. I heard the conversations. I saw the plans. My voice broke slightly. How could you? Mom, I just wanted. And what did you want? To put me in a nursing home, to sell your father's house, to erase me? Julia intervened with perfect tears rolling down her cheeks. "Matthew, my love, this is a misunderstanding. Your mother is confused. That man is manipulating her." "Shut up!" Matthew's voice boomed in the living room. For the first time, he yelled at his wife. "Shut up, Julia!" He stood up trembling. He looked at me with glassy eyes. "Mom, I didn't want it to go this far. Julie said it was the only way to secure our future, that you wouldn't understand, that it was better for everyone this way." "For everyone or for her?" Damien played his last cards, the photos of Julia entering the hotel with Salvador. "And finally, we have evidence that Mrs. Montero is maintaining an extramarital affair with Mr. Salvador Ortiz, a known con artist wanted in Texas." The photos fell on the table like bombs. Matthew saw them. 1, 2, 3. Julia kissing another man. Julia laughing with another man. Julia leaving a hotel with another man. "Matthew, I can explain," Julia began. But Matthew wasn't looking at her anymore. He was looking at me. And in his eyes, I saw something I hadn't seen in months. Guilt, shame, pain. "Mom, the court order states that both Mr. Matthew Fernandez and Mrs. Julia Montero must vacate the second floor of this property within no more than 72 hours while the investigation is carried out." Damien read from the official document. 72 hours. Julia shot up like a spring. "This is abuse. We have nowhere to go." "You should have thought of that before you planned to steal the house of a 68-year-old woman." Damien responded without emotion. Julia looked at me with pure distilled hatred. You played dumb this whole time you set us up." "No, Julia, I defended myself. It's not the same thing." "Matthew, do something. She's your mother. Convince her." But Matthew was still staring at the photos. He picked one up in his hands, the one where Julia was kissing Salvador. "How long?" he asked in a broken voice. "Matthew, it's not—" "How long?" "6 months," Julia whispered. The silence was deafening. 6 months. You've been cheating on me for 6 months while you planned to steal everything from my mother. I wasn't going to steal it. It was for us, for our future. Our future. Matthew let out a bitter laugh. Did our future include that guy? Julia didn't answer. She didn't have to. The truth was written all over her face. Matthew sank onto the sofa. He covered his face with his hands, and he cried. I wanted to go to him, to hug him, to comfort him like I did when he was a child. But I stayed where I was because my son had made choices, and choices have consequences. Damien packed up his documents. You have until Friday at 6 p.m. to vacate. If you do not do so voluntarily, the police will come to execute the order. I suggest you cooperate. He stood up. I walked him to the door. Thank you, Damien. This is just the beginning, Eleanor. The hard part comes now. When I closed the door, I stood there for a few seconds taking a deep breath. Behind me, Julia was screaming. Matthew was crying. Chaos had erupted. But for the first time in months, I wasn't crying. For the first time in months, I was standing tall. And though my heart was bleeding for my son, for the broken family, for all that was lost, I also felt something I had forgotten. Dignity. The next 3 days were a silent hell. Julia packed her things violently, throwing clothes into suitcases, breaking what she couldn't take. Matthew moved like a zombie, not speaking, not looking at anyone. On Thursday night, my son knocked on my bedroom door. Mom, can I come in? My heart clenched. Come in. He entered with slumped shoulders, his eyes swollen. He looked 10 years older than he had a week ago. Mom, I don't even know where to begin. Start with the truth, Matthew. He sat on the edge of my bed where he had sat so many times as a child when he was scared or sad. Julia convinced me we were doing it for your own good. She told me you were losing your memory, that you needed special care, that the house was too much for you. He wiped away tears with the back of his hand. And I wanted to believe her because it was convenient for me, Mom. Because I wanted the house. because I was tired of having nothing of my own. And was it worth destroying me to get it? No, God, no. But when you get into something like that every day, it gets easier to justify it. One more step, one more lie, and suddenly you're in so deep, you don't know how to get out. You could have gotten out at any time. You could have talked to me. I know, and I didn't, and I'll carry that with me for the rest of my life. He looked at me with pleading eyes. Mom, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know what I did is unforgivable, but I need you to know that I never stopped loving you, even if what I did says otherwise. I wanted to hug him to tell him everything was okay, but I couldn't because everything was not okay. Matthew, you're my son, and you always will be, but I need time. I need to heal from what you did to me. He nodded, crying silently. I understand. I'm leaving tomorrow. I don't know where yet. Ryan offered to let me stay with him for a few days while I figure things out. And Julia? She's going to her mother's. I've already filed for divorce. His voice broke. It was all a lie, Mom. Everything. I don't even know if she ever loved me. I'm sorry, son. I'm sorrier. For you. For everything. He got up to leave. At the door, he stopped. Dad would be disappointed in me. Yes, I answered honestly. He would be, but he would also believe you could be better. When he left, I cried. Not for Julia, not for the house. I cried for my son, for the boy he was and the man he had become. On Friday at 5 p.m, Julia and Matthew finished moving their things out. Ryan had come from Wisconsin to help with the boxes. Julia didn't say a word to me. She just gave me one last look of pure hatred before getting into an Uber with 6 suitcases. Matthew said goodbye with a long, desperate hug. I'm going to make it up to you, Mom. I don't know how, but I will. When they left, a silence fell over the house that I hadn't felt in 2 years. Ryan stayed with me that night. We ordered Chinese food and sat in the living room, my living room, without the constant noise from upstairs. How are you feeling, Mom? Tired, sad, but also free. You did the right thing. Dad would be proud. Your father would never have let it get to this point? No, but Dad isn't here anymore, and you had to fight alone, and you won. 2 weeks later was the court hearing. Damien had prepared me. It's just a formality. With all the evidence we have, the judge will rule in your favor. The courtroom was small, cold, and smelled of old paper and stale coffee. I was sitting next to Damien. On the other side, Julia with her lawyer, a nervous man who was sweating despite the air conditioning. Matthew didn't come. His lawyer represented him. He had accepted full responsibility in exchange for a lighter sentence. The judge, a man in his 60s with thick glasses, reviewed the documents. All right, I've reviewed the case. Mrs. Montero, do you have anything to say in your defense? Julia stood up. She was wearing a navy blue suit, her hair pulled back, discreet makeup, the perfect picture of innocence. Your Honor, it was all a misunderstanding. I just wanted to help my mother-in-law. She was confused. She was forgetting things. Is that why you opened credit cards in her name without authorization? The judge asked. She gave me verbal permission. And is that why you plan to have her declared incompetent to appropriate her property? Julia stammered. It was my husband's idea. We have recordings where you clearly orchestrate the entire plan, Mrs. Montero. The judge looked at his papers. We also have evidence that you were maintaining an extramarital affair while committing these frauds. Is that correct? Julia's silence was answer enough. The judge took off his glasses. Mrs. Montero, what you did is called financial abuse of an elder. It is a serious crime. Damien stood up. Your Honor, we would also like to present additional evidence regarding Mrs. Montero's accomplice, Mr. Salvador Ortiz. He placed a thick file on the table. The judge reviewed it, and his expression hardened. Is this the same Salvador Ortiz wanted for fraud in Texas? The very same, Your Honor. We have reason to believe that Mrs. Montero was planning to flee with him once she obtained the property. Julia turned pale. That's not true. We have text messages, Damien continued relentlessly. He projected a screen with WhatsApp conversations between Julia and Salvador. Julia: "It's almost done. 3 more weeks and the house is ours." Salvador: "And your husband, Julia, that fool doesn't suspect a thing. Once I have the money, I'll divorce him and we'll go to Cancun as planned." Salvador: "You're a bad girl, baby. I love it." The judge read message after message. The courtroom was in absolute silence. "Anything else you'd like to add, Mrs. Montero?" Julia didn't answer. She was crying, but no one believed her tears anymore. The judge closed the folder with a sharp bang. "I find in favor of Mrs. Eleanor Aguirre on all charges. Mrs. Julia Montero is ordered to pay the sum of $847,000 for financial fraud, plus damages to be determined in a subsequent hearing. An arrest warrant is issued for Mr. Salvador Ortiz Paniagua. Mrs. Montero will face criminal charges for fraud, document forgery, and financial abuse of an elder." The gavel struck the desk. The sound echoed in my chest. I had won. Julia was escorted out of the courtroom by 2 officers. Before she left, she turned to look at me. There was no arrogance in her gaze anymore, just defeat. Damien hugged me. "It's over, Eleanor. You won." But I didn't feel victorious. I felt exhausted, empty. We walked out of the courthouse into the bright afternoon sun. Ryan was waiting for me outside. And, "We won," I said simply. He hugged me tight. "You deserve it, Mom. You deserve everything." That night back in my house, I sat in the living room with a cup of strong coffee. The house was quiet. The silence that used to terrify me now felt like peace. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Matthew. "Mom, I heard about the result. I'm happy for you. I know I don't deserve anything, but can I see you again someday?" I read it 3 times. My fingers trembled over the keyboard. "Someday, son, but not today." It wasn't forgiveness, but it wasn't a final goodbye either. I looked around. My house, my living room, my memories. Everything was still here, and so was I. But the story wasn't over yet. 3 months after the trial, my life had found a new rhythm, different, quieter. I went back to my embroidery meetings with Susan, Linda, and Sarah. They welcomed me with long hugs and tears of joy. "Eleanor, you're a warrior," Susan would say. "You taught us all a lesson." I didn't want to be a warrior. I just wanted to be left in peace. Well, you did it, and with style. Julia was facing a criminal trial. Her lawyer had tried to negotiate, but Damien was relentless. Salvador, her accomplice and lover, was arrested in Mexico trying to leave the country. Now they both faced years in prison. The money she owed would be paid through community service and a payment plan that would take her decades. Poetic justice, Damien called it. But the hardest part wasn't the trial or the lawyers or the papers. The hardest part was Matthew. My son had fallen into a deep depression. Ryan called me every week with updates. "He's in therapy, Mom. He's trying to process everything. He lost his marriage, almost lost his mother, and found out he was just a puppet." "How is he financially surviving?" "He got a new job. He's living in a small apartment, paying his debts little by little." "Has he asked about me?" "Every day." One afternoon in October, 6 months after everything, Matthew showed up at my door. He hadn't called, he just rang the bell. When I opened it, I barely recognized him. He had lost weight. He had dark circles under his eyes. He looked tired, defeated, small. "Mom." His voice broke as soon as he saw me. "Matthew, I know I have no right to come here. I know I should have called, but I needed to see you." I let him in. We sat in the living room, a meter of distance between us that felt like a chasm. "I've been in therapy," he began, "twice a week, trying to understand how I became the person I was with you." "And what have you discovered?" "That I was weak, that I let ambition and manipulation turn me into a monster, that I betrayed everything Dad taught me." He wiped away tears. "That I betrayed the person who loved me most in the world." My heart ached, but I said nothing. I needed to hear it all. "I'm paying off the debts, all of them, even if it takes me years. The lawyer says I have to pay $140,000 in damages. I'm saving every dollar. I don't need your money, Matthew. But I need to pay it. I need to do something, Mom, anything. We sat in silence, a heavy silence filled with everything unsaid, broken, lost. Why did you come today? I finally asked. Because it's your birthday. I had forgotten. 69 years old, a year after that humiliating party. Matthew took a small box out of his backpack. I brought you something. It's not much. I don't have a lot of money, but... I opened the box. Inside was a mug, a hand-painted ceramic mug with little blue flowers. It was rough, imperfect, clearly made by inexperienced hands. I made it, Matthew explained. I took a ceramics class. I remembered that Julia threw away your mugs, the ones Dad used to give you, and I thought I could start replacing them, one at a time, for however long it takes you to forgive me. I held the mug in my hands. I felt its uneven weight, its rough texture, the imperfect love put into every detail, and I cried. Mom, don't cry, please. I'm not crying because I'm sad, Matthew. I'm crying because this mug is the first real thing you've given me in years, real with no strings attached, no ulterior motives, just because you wanted to give me something. He knelt in front of me like when he was a boy and would ask for forgiveness for breaking a window or getting bad grades. Mom, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know there's no excuse for what I did. But if you give me a chance, even a small one, I'll spend the rest of my life showing you that I can be the son you deserve. I looked at him. I really looked at him. And I saw two people, the man who betrayed me and the boy who was once my everything. Matthew, I can't forgive you today. Maybe I can't forgive you tomorrow, but I want to try. Really, but with conditions. Anything. First, therapy, not just for you. Family therapy with you, me, and Ryan. We need to heal this properly. I accept. Second, boundaries. If we rebuild a relationship, it will be slowly, with respect, with honesty. I understand. And third, never again choose money over people. Because money runs out, Matthew, but the people you love, they're irreplaceable. I know that now. I learned it the hard way. I hugged him. A short, cautious hug, but it was a start. When he left, I held the mug in my hands. It was ugly. It was imperfect. It was beautiful. 2 weeks later, Damien came over for dinner. I made him my special chili rice and beans. Simple, honest food, the way I've always known how to cook. Eleanor, this is delicious, he said, wiping his mouth with a napkin. My husband used to say I cooked better when I was at peace. And are you at peace? I thought about the question. I thought about everything I had been through. The pain, the betrayal, the fight, the victory, the difficult forgiveness. I'm getting there, I replied. Damien looked at me with that gaze he had never lost. Eleanor, I know it's soon. I know you're still healing, but I need to tell you something I've kept quiet for 45 years. Damien, let me finish. He took my hand across the table. I never stopped thinking about you. I got married, yes. I had a life. But when my wife died 5 years ago, and when I saw you again a few months ago, I knew that some stories deserve a second chapter. Damien, you don't have to answer now. I just need you to know that I'm here, that I'm not going anywhere, and that if someday when you're ready you want to give a chance to this old fool who's loved you since he was 22, I'll be waiting. I looked at him, his gray hair, his wrinkles, his kind eyes, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years, possibility. I'm not promising anything, I finally said, but I'm not saying no either. He smiled. That's more than I could have hoped for. That night after Damien left, I went up to my room. I passed by the door to the second floor, now empty, silent. I went into my room and stood in front of the mirror, the same mirror where it all began. I picked up the lipstick. The same coral lipstick I had put on that day. I applied it slowly, carefully, looking myself in the eye, and I saw a different woman, not younger, not more perfect, but stronger, more dignified, more herself. Makeup doesn't work miracles, I said to my reflection. But reclaimed dignity, that transforms everything. I smiled, and for the first time in a long time, the smile was genuine. I learned many things in these painful months. I learned that family doesn't always mean loyalty, that sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who can hurt you the most. I learned that it's okay to set boundaries, that saying no doesn't make you a bad person, that defending yourself isn't selfish. I learned that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, that you can forgive and still protect your peace, that you can love someone from a distance while you heal. I learned that age doesn't make you weak, that at 69 you can be stronger than ever, that gray hairs are wisdom and wrinkles are maps of battles survived. And I learned that it's never too late to start over. My house is at peace now. Ryan comes to visit every month. Matthew comes every 2 weeks, slowly rebuilding what he destroyed. Damien stops by for coffee on Thursdays and makes me laugh with stories of his absurd cases. I'm back to watering my plants. I'm back to cooking for my friends. I'm back to wearing coral lipstick without anyone telling me I'm too old for it. Because the truth is, this real wealth isn't in what you own. It's in what you don't let them take from you. Your dignity, your voice, your right to live in peace. And that no one, absolutely no one, can take away from you unless you let them. If this story touched your heart, if it made you feel angry, hopeful, or simply reminded you that it's never too late to stand up for yourself, leave me a comment. Tell me, where are you listening from? Have you experienced something similar? Do you know someone who needs to hear that they deserve respect? Give this a like if you think Eleanor did the right thing. And subscribe to the Elderly Stories channel for more real-life stories of women and men who stood up when everyone thought they were defeated. Because we all have a story and they all deserve to be told. Thank you for joining me in this tale. Until the next story.